Here we have the current stock market update for SOUNDHOUND AI Incorporated, stock ticker SOUN. Before we begin with today's chart analysis, if you find these educational materials to be helpful, please remember to click the like and subscribe buttons and leave your thoughts below in the comments section so that other traders can find this information more easily on the platform. So what we're looking at here is the 1 hour price chart. That means that each candle on this time frame represents a 1 hour trading period. And as we can see, this is a very good trading period for everyone that is currently long this stock. As we can see previously, I have not changed any of the prior chart analysis that was done for the last video. And as we can see here, what we were looking for was whether or not the support zone right around 515 would be able to hold up and send share prices higher. And as we can see here, this did actually turn out to be the base. And then in addition to that, there were several important signals here that were allowed to remain intact during this whole process. So we do need to sort of revise some of these price levels here and some of these chart analysis studies because we can see here that this 618 retracement of this prior move here, that would be really this move here. I understand it's a little bit difficult to see here. But, if we're looking at this price movement here from roughly 486 to 625, we can see that the 61.8% retracement did contain share prices here. So that would be right around 515. And then as we can see also, there's this uptrend line that we have been watching here that did remain intact throughout this entire process. Also, we should look at these exponential moving averages here because even though the stock price, I'll sort of delete this here. Okay, maybe that's a little easier to see because what we're looking at here is the exponential moving averages, these four colored lines here. And we can see that the stock did actually break below here and even close below here on an hourly basis. But, what we were saying in the prior video was that there's enough signal activity here to suggest that, if we are able to sort of start to move higher and possibly even break above this resistance zone at 625, then it would be possible to start to refer to these price movements as a false break to the downside. Because, there wasn't a huge amount of follow through here. We were really sort of moving in a sideways fashion, sort of a consolidative type of price movement here. And then share prices did, in fact, start to rally much higher. We first broke through the exponential moving averages, and then ultimately we broke back through this 625 resistance zone. So, all of this prior chart analysis here did turn out to work quite well, even though we were starting to see some evidence that it was breaking. It just wasn't breaking, convincingly enough, I should say. This break was not convincing enough to really sort of confirm that this really was a downside break, and we were still watching this in terms of its potential to continue to contain share prices to the downside, and then ultimately work as a launching pad for the stock to start to bounce. So as we can see, all of that did wind up occurring, and then as that happened, there's a lot occurred here because as we can see, this prior downtrend line has now broken as well. This is becoming a little bit of a concern here because we had this prior high at 645 and then this lower high at 625. So if we did see a failure here, it was starting to look as though a downtrend could be developing. These two price highs are relatively close in proximity with each other as far as the price level is concerned. It's only a 20-cent difference, so it's not a huge difference. But the fact that this was a lower high, at the very least, this would be considered to be a double top resistance zone. But with a bit of a lower high, you're also starting to consider this as a potential downtrend that is starting to form. But with this price move in here, all of that has been broken. So we can start to sort of look past that prior downtrend because we've even overcome those prior highs at 645. So this is a forceful price movement here. It's very consequential in many different ways, and we did remain intact. This price structure here, this bullish price structure, did remain intact this entire time, as we can see. There were some brief spikes lower, but not a lot of follow through here. So that was enough to sort of keep a watchful eye on this and look for the possibility that those breaks lower might actually be a false breakout to the downside. So currently, we do have to start to revise a lot of this outlook because this price movement does sort of destroy a lot of that prior bearish type of argument that was being seen previously. The only issue at the moment is that we don't exactly know where this price high will be. We can start to use technical chart tools like standard deviation channels, Fibonacci projection zones, and things like that. Those are useful to some extent. They give you kind of a rough approximation of where share prices can travel, moving forward. But they're not very exact. I mean, I actually prefer to not do that type of analysis very much. I mean, I think the standard deviation channel is a little bit more useful, but for the moment, I think we should rather be concerned with the potential for downside price movement, because as we can see in the indicator reading, the share price itself is now moving into heavily overbought territory, as we can see here. One good thing that can be said is that the relative strength index is actually making new highs here. If this was not occurring, you would start to have a bearish divergence type of condition that is not taking place here. So that's a positive. And then in addition to that, you do have a break of this prior downtrend line. So this negative momentum reading that was developing here and had been in place ever since the stock formed those highs at 645, that has now broken. So this means that this trend has completed itself. This specific momentum rating is no longer considered viable or valid in terms of its ability to influence share prices. So that's a good piece of news on its own. The only factor that you have to kind of contend with here is that we are moving into sort of heavily overbought territory. This reading here is actually it's right around 90. It's actually slightly above 90. So that's an extreme reading. Anything above 70 would be considered to be overbought. Anything over 90 would be considered to be an extreme overbought reading. So you do have to sort of expect to see a bit of a rollover here. Things can't just move in one direction forever. So these are positive movements, and they've done a lot of damage to the bearish side of the argument. So anybody that had a short position previously, those people are getting pretty destroyed at the moment as far as their stock positions are concerned. So overall, even though we are in overbought territory at the moment, I would say that on balance, this is definitely highly bullish in terms of its overall development. And we can see that the relative strength index reading still has positive momentum that has been in place since roughly the beginning of October. So, this it would take a lot of downside price movement in order to start to invalidate this upward momentum reading in the relative strength index. So these are all positive developments here, and this does suggest that share prices can continue to move higher, but I would expect to see a bit of a retracement here relatively soon. So here's a current market update for SOUNDHOUND AI, stock ticker SOUN. Our high value trading strategies membership is currently available for a limited time for only $9.99 per month. These high conviction investment strategies are characterized by superior risk to reward metrics that target massive market beating returns over time. Join now to outperform the market, lock in this special introductory rate of just $9.99 per month for the entire lifetime of your membership, and start trading stocks with the pros.